Tonight, we're peeling back the curtain on a story that sounds like a Hollywood fever dream, but for Jourdan Blue, every cold night on the pavement was a gritty reality. Before the world knew him as the vocal powerhouse who redefined primetime television, he was a ghost haunting the French Quarter. But here is the detail that the mainstream media often skips. Jourdan wasn't your average struggling artist. He was a man who walked away from the bar exam to stand on the pavement. This wasn't a choice made out of lack of options. It was a radical pivot. Jourdan was a military school valedictorian, a high-achieving academic who entered college at just 16 years old. He had a trajectory aimed straight at a law degree, a life of stability, and a future of corporate prestige. Yet, he chose to trade a mahogany desk for a plastic crate on a New Orleans street corner. Why would a man with that much intellectual leverage choose to sing for tips from 8 p.m. to 3 a.m. while dodging local law enforcement? Our investigation suggests it wasn't just about the music. It was about a desperate need for authentic expression that a courtroom could never provide. He spent years in the shadows, perfecting a craft that would eventually make him a household name, all while providing for his young son, Jax, in the most grueling conditions imaginable. The blue in his name wasn't just a label. It was the atmosphere of his daily life, a constant struggle to stay visible in a city that often tries to move its street performers along into the darkness. But the shadows were where he learned how to command an audience that didn't even want to stop. As we dig deeper into the timeline, a massive gap in the official narrative emerges, one that involves a secret chapter thousands of miles away from the Louisiana heat. Why was a future star hiding in plain sight across the Atlantic for nearly a year? Long before the Golden Buzzer, Jourdan actually fled the American circuit entirely, resurfacing in Germany as a member of the boy band Bout Last Night. This wasn't some minor hobby. It was a full-scale industrial music machine. For months, Jourdan lived a double life, training in European studios and performing for massive crowds that had no idea he was a street performer from the South. This overseas exile is the missing link in his story. It explains why, when he finally stood before Simon Cowell, he didn't have the nerves of a novice. He had the cold, calculated precision of a seasoned international touring artist. Industry insiders suggest that this period was kept quiet to preserve his underdog image on reality TV, but the truth is far more complex. He was hunting a vocal weapon in the European underground, learning the technicalities of stage presence that would later shock the judges. While his peers were practicing in their garages, Jourdan was navigating the high-stakes world of international pop. This wasn't just luck. It was a global training montage that prepared him for a takeover. He returned to the States not as a busker, but as a silent professional waiting for the right moment to strike. This secret training is what allowed him to maintain such high-level consistency when the pressure finally reached its boiling point on the national stage in 2024 and 2025. Perhaps the most controversial chapter of this investigation involves a major television network and what fans are calling a total blackout. What is the mystery behind the singer the networks tried to mute during his first run at fame? Before his AGT triumph, Jourdan actually secured a spot on American Idol. He performed, he impressed, and he advanced. But when the episodes aired, Jourdan Blue was nowhere to be found. His footage was essentially scrubbed, relegated to the cutting room floor with no explanation given to the public. Rumors have circulated for years that a contract dispute or a disagreement with producers led to this erasure, leaving Jourdan to return to the streets as if his big break never happened. Imagine the psychological toll of reaching the summit, only to be told you don't exist in the final edit. This wasn't just a setback. It was a professional off-feeing of his momentum. It forced him back to that New Orleans corner, humiliated but more determined than ever. Some speculate that the Idol producers didn't know how to market a man with such a complex, military-grade background and a street-level soul. They wanted a simple story, and Jourdan was anything but simple. This rejection, however, became the fuel for his 2026 resurgence. He didn't just want to win. He wanted to prove that no network could truly silence a voice that was forged in the fire of real-world struggle. He took that erasure and turned it into a brand of resilience that would eventually make him unignorable. The very people who cut him from the broadcast are now likely the ones watching his 2026 charts with deep regret. The reality of busking isn't just about bad weather and low tips. It's about survival in an environment that can turn hostile in a heartbeat. What really happened the night the music almost stopped forever on the corner of Bourbon Street? Just weeks before Jourdan's life changed, a violent altercation occurred at his usual performance spot. While we have to be careful with the details for broadcast safety, sources close to the artist say it was a near-offing experience that served as his ultimate breaking point. He was witnessing the decay of the streets he loved, realizing that his son's father was standing in a literal line of fire every night just to make ends meet. This wasn't just a career choice anymore. It was a security crisis. He was dodging more than just accusations from the police. He was navigating a landscape where street performers are often targets. That final night in New Orleans wasn't a peaceful farewell. It was an escape. When he walked onto that AGT stage, the tears in his eyes weren't just for the song. They were for the fact that he was finally in a room where he didn't have to look over his shoulder. The desperation in his voice was a direct result of that trauma, a raw, unedited plea for a way out. It's a side of the Golden Buzzer story that feels much darker when you realize he wasn't just looking for fame. He was looking for a sanctuary. The shocking power of his audition came from a man who knew that if he failed this time, he was going back to a corner that might eventually take his life. That kind of pressure creates a diamond, and that diamond is exactly what the world saw when the music started. When Howie Mandel hit that golden buzzer, it felt like a moment of pure, spontaneous magic. But was it? Was the most emotional moment in TV history actually a calculated chess move by an artist who had seen it all? Looking back at the footage through an investigative lens, you see a man who knew exactly how to play the room. Jourdan didn't just sing. He conducted the emotions of everyone in that theater. His military background gave him a level of discipline that most contestants lack. He understood the packing of a reality show. He knew when to hold the note, when to show vulnerability, and exactly when to let the power of his voice expose the judge's own emotions. This wasn't a man hopping for a break. It was a man demanding it. In 2026, industry analysts are pointing to this specific performance as a masterclass in psychological branding. He used his busker persona to lower their guard, then hit them with the precision of a valedictorian. It was a strategic takeover of the format itself. He bypassed the usual gatekeepers by creating a moment so undeniable that the producers had no choice but to make him the face of the season. This wasn't a lucky break. It was a hard-earned victory by a man who had studied the industry's failures during his erasure years and decided he would never be silenced again. He manipulated the medium to ensure his survival, and in doing so, he created a legacy that will be studied by every aspiring artist for the next decade. The magic was real, but the preparation was surgical. Now, as we move through 2026, the story has reached a fever pitch of speculation and high-stakes finance. How did a man with $0 in 2024 become the most hunted asset in music by 2026? The numbers are staggering. Our reports indicate a massive bidding war is currently taking place behind closed doors, with two of the big three labels offering unprecedented, 8-figure deals to secure his debut album rights. Jourdan Blue is no longer a contestant. He is a conglomerate. But with that rise comes a new set of accusations and rumors. Some say he's moving away from his roots, while others speculate that his new music, including the viral hit Believe, is actually a coded message about the SHT he had to deal with in the industry's shadows. The mysterious nature of his 2026 rise is fueled by his refusal to play the traditional celebrity game. He rarely does interviews, he keeps his family life strictly private, and he continues to release music on his own terms. There are even whispers of a massive documentary deal that would reveal the names of the people who tried to block his path in the early days. He has gone from a man being moved along by police to a man who moves the entire market. As he prepares for a global tour that includes a symbolic return to the streets of New Orleans, the world is watching to see if the busker can survive the billionaire lifestyle. The untold story of Jourdan Blue isn't just about a voice. It's about a man who was pushed to the edge and decided to build a bridge instead of falling.